Welcome to Inside the Corner Office, a podcast where you will be taken behind the scenes of the daily life of a CEO. I'm Thomas Buberl, CEO of AXA. In each episode of this podcast, we will delve into a specific aspect of this role. You will see that making decisions from an office is definitely not what this job is all about. For every topic, we'll be joined by a leader of a major organization. I hope you will enjoy these discussions. Tune in and take a seat at the table. We are inside the corner office. This episode will compare the experience of leading large, complex organizations such as Verizon, explore the roles of the CEOs in managing critical services during crisis, for example, COVID, and reflect on how trust, resilience, and responsibility serve as the cornerstones of effective leadership. Today, we are with Hans Vestberg. He's known for shaping the future of connectivity while addressing challenges related to digital inclusion, cybersecurity, and social responsibility. Hans, great to be with you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Do you remember the first time we met?
No, that's a trick question. It's quite a long time ago. It's probably in the beginning of 2010, 2011 or something. Can have been somewhere in Europe. I could guess Portugal or something like that at an event. Can it be right?
I must say I don't know myself, but I remember the first discussion we had stuck with me, and it was a great discussion around leadership and around social engagement.
Yes.
And you've really struck me at the time as a leader, as a very complete leader. But we'll go into this now. So you are at the head already for a long time of a very large organization, 100,000 plus employees. How do you make sure that they run for a single vision?
I think this is you underestimate when you become a CEO, this culture aspect of it. I was CFO for a while. I was running a business. So you don't realize how important it is to have a North Star, a mission that people understand, that is simple, that you have values connected to that. We in Verizon, we call it the culture operating system, culture OS, where we try to connect what are the vision for the company, what are the values, what are the leadership principles, and what is a strategy to achieve that. And if every employee understands that, what we stand for, and our values and the mission we have, it's way easier to execute. And I would say if you don't get that culture OS together and you have different views, how you should act, what are your values, what are a real mission here, and what are we trying to create, and how do you treat customers, how do you treat employees, how do you treat each other, not having that in a system and consistently talk about it, then it's very hard to execute in a very organized and structured way. So I think I did some work at Ericsson. I think I learned, and I think at Verizon I have refined the model, especially with the values, and we have the same values for our customers as we have ourselves, which makes it very easy to understand. We should respect each other internally, we should respect our customers, we should be professional, we should have operation excellence. So all of that becomes very important for us. I think that's how I try to work, and that's a thing that you as a CEO actually have a very big power over. Yeah. I mean, there are many things in a company, actually. There are so many things happening, so many people taking decisions. You need to decide where can you really have an impact. And the cultural operating system is definitely something. You set a tone, this is how you behave. Then you need to behave after yourself. I mean, if you decide these are the values, you need to show up on those values, because I'm the ultimate culture bearer or brand ambassador for our company.
Yes. So on the OS, you've got the programming part, so creating it, that's, I guess, is the easier part of it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about making it work. I mean, you can't be everywhere, every day, in every shop. What are you using in terms of means, platforms to convey this message, and also to show people what you really want in terms of values, behaviors, and so on?
Yeah, so first of all, I of course, try to meet as many people I can in our organization, as many customers. I mean, we have 9,000 stores in the US, so of course it's impossible for me. But it's important every time I'm in a store to show my appreciation, and also the importance of my field force, for example. And then we replicate that in every channel you can ever imagine, how important it is. And so you have to live with your values, but you also have systematic ways of doing it. I basically have the same slides when it comes to our values that I have for 7 years right now. So, if you have a small change you want to do, don't do it. Of course, you can do a rebrand or refresh your culture or something like that. Then you need a massive work. But then try to keep it so people remember it. Because in our company, we probably have 9 layers from me with managers in between. It takes a year or two for every layer to get through it. So you just need to be extremely consistent and keep the same message and remember it every time you meet people, every time you're on a big stage and talk about it. And I think that's how you do it over time. And that's why over time you can actually get a whole organization having those behaviors and understand. Then you take all those behaviors in systematic education and training in the company for leaders. So you basically hang everything together on the culture OS. If it's training, how you behave, how you show up in a meeting, how you show up with customers, how you do your commercials, everything has to hang together.
So, and when you do this, I mean, do you focus more on, let's say, the employee who is facing the customer? Do you do it more with the intermediate leadership layers and rely on them to do it on your behalf? What is your strategy?
The majority of all our people are customer facing. And they are actually meeting customers every day. So, of course, a lot of my time is to talk to them and see that they understand. But ultimately, they have leaders that actually are educating them, training them by a training program, onboarding. So I think I try to have a balance between all the leaders and being in the field. But it's very important. There are things that only I can do as a CEO and putting my thumbprint on. So you need to be very diligent with your time and how you do this, because there are 100, and you would know it, Thomas. I mean, it's 100,000 things you can do in a day, but it's very few things that you as a CEO really are uniquely positioned to do. Not because you are Thomas and I'm Hans, it's more because I'm the CEO, because that opens certain doors and certain things. So that has been my mission for many years, to think that through, so I spend my hours wisely.
Yeah. And look, I mean, that's another topic which is around complexity. The complexity of these organizations are very high. The organizations often want you to do different things to what you want to do. And you're probably much more tempted to be stuck in bureaucracy than to spend time with the shop floor and understand them more.
Yeah.
Talking about this topic of complexity, I mean, we live in a very complex world, and we're trying every day to reduce complexity. And I have to say, I have succeeded on a couple of things, but I have not succeeded in my almost 10 years on one thing: reducing complexity. Have you got a great secret of how to reduce complexity?
Now, of course, in a large organization, you just need to understand that there's going to be a certain type of a bureaucracy. I mean, we spend $18 to $20 billion in capital expenditures every year. You have to have a certain process, so that money is the right money we spend. So, of course, there is it. But I have always tried to be very focused on how much time I and my leadership team spends on governance. Because if I have 100 meetings, my team's going to have 1,000 meetings. And so I'm very focused on the meetings we lay out for the year. They're very purposeful driven. In our governance, we have 2.5 days a month where we meet as a leadership team. We have all the meetings we need to have. After that, we don't have any structured meeting. We can have an ad hoc meeting if something happens. And every team leader can do what they do. So I've been very structured to get that bureaucracy away, so we don't have meeting that week, and so people never can focus on what they are doing because they need to focus on their businesses. So I think sometimes, people think it's extraordinary boring with governance, how many you have an M&A committee, you have an investment committee, you have a leadership team meeting, but when you start adding it up, how many hours that is,
it's a lot of time.
And then how that ripples through, you need to start thinking about what are we talking about here, how many hours do we have here, how many hours in a year are we want to spend on our investment committee. We decide that, basically we're deciding that for 26 right now. And that is actually reducing complexity because everybody knows how many hours and how we are structuring.
Okay, so you're planning more in advance and say, I'd rather be meaningful in the timing of these meetings to avoid from the beginning rather than to slash meetings. Yeah. Staying in the logic of your OS again, OS regularly need upgrades. So it's the second time you are a CEO. Yeah. How does it feel? I mean, you have done, I think it was 5 years at Ericsson.
6 full years,
okay. And then you started again in a different place. I mean, same industry, but almost same industry. What did you do differently the second time that you didn't do the first time anymore, and why?
First of all, my first tenure as a CEO, I worked at Ericsson for 28 years. So when I became CEO, I knew everyone in the company. I had the bios on every person I'm going to appoint. I had either worked with them, that had been my boss, or I've been reporting to them. So I had to take a lot of counseling externally, so I didn't brought my biases in when I decided, when I took the structures in the beginning. So very different approach when I came into Verizon with, let's say 250,000 employees. I knew one guy. That's very different than I was there for 9 months or something like that before I became the CEO. So then I had to build my brand value because people didn't know me. Who is it? So I remember when I decided on Verizon 2.0, which was my white paper to the board, I had written exactly what I want to do in the next 5 years and hadn't shared it more with the board. I decided I'm going to meet the top 256 people one by one for 30 minutes. Wow. I submitted them 3 questions because I knew what I wanted to do. They had no idea what I wanted to do. And I had a conversation with all of them. So when I had gone through all the 256, let's say I wanted to do 15 things, 11 things they actually suggested for me, so will not be a major problem. Then I had 4 things left. 2, I had to change my mind because actually I got better input. 2 of them, they didn't want to do, but I thought it was necessary. And of course, I put a lot of effort on the 2 when it comes to communication, which we're not aligned on. So very different from Ericsson when I took over from how I did it at Verizon. But ultimately, it's about to get the mission for everyone to understand where we're going and feeling part of the decision. The worst thing you can do is just coming in and say, hey, I know exactly where we're going, especially in a company where I had worked 9 months. I mean, there was a lot of great things that we want to preserve. So I made a model where I made a column on everything we want to preserve, everything we want to improve, and everything we want to transform. So you could be very proud of everything we want to preserve, a lot of great things we have started, want to do better. Transform was sort of, this is the list of things we really need to change. So you got the team with you. Very different work.
When you look 7 years later at this paper again, have you implemented everything? Have you done things differently, and why?
I actually probably implement everything, and I actually have written a new paper right now.
And you did it the same way again? You asked the 200...
Nowadays I take roughly 40, 50 skip levels every year, and I have my questions because I do changes constantly, and I talk to them and usually have 3-4 questions for them. They need to write in advance before they meet me, and then I get sort of a subset. What are they thinking? How hard is this change going to be? So I do the same things, and that's part of how I get the top leaders to understand and also feeling part of the decision making of the company.
Yeah. What do you do outside of Verizon to get, inspiration around how you can become a better leader?
So I have the luxury to be able to meet any leader of the world, and I have had that for a long time. I usually, when I meet people, like I meet you, Thomas, we talk about how we lead. I ask you how you are doing, and I always steal something from you. And I always steal something from leaders because ultimately, I don't have one leader. Wow, I want to be like him or her. I've never been like that. Yeah. But I want to take pieces from people and learn. I mean, that's how Thomas did it during COVID, or that's how Thomas is doing it now when it's a big crisis or whatever, or that's how Tim Cook or whoever is doing it. And I can take pieces of it. Yeah. Of course, a lot of my leadership or values come from my father and my family, because my father was my coach in sport from I was 6 years old until I sort of went semi-professional in sports. And he was, of course, the guy I spent 24/7 with for, almost 22 years. And he had an enormous impact on me, how I should behave and how I should respect others, how I should think about team and things like that. So ultimately, that's the values I have in the bottom. And then I meet a lot of people and I take from them. I think that the only thing I'm really good at is leading large organization. And if I don't improve every day to be a better leader, I don't know. I have to improve every day to be a better leader. Yeah. So I think I have models, I measure myself, I have leadership models I have for myself, all in order to be a better leader every day.
You spoke about COVID and you spoke about the Swedish upbringing.
Yeah.
COVID, I think, was a moment also in insurance where we were kind of thrown into the cold water. Nobody had a playbook or could ask anybody beforehand. How did you experience that moment of being alone, of being not capable of dealing with it because we didn't know how to, and of like relying on what you knew, which was your values when you were growing up?
The complexity was enormous for us. I mean, first of all, as I said, the majority of our employees are in the field, and they're deemed critical. I need to keep my store open. I had to install broadband in hospitals when people actually was dying. Extraordinarily difficult. I had different regulation for different zip codes basically in the US. If I can have the store open, can I be out on the street? The complexity was enormous. I remember after the first week, I decided two things which lately I think was the right decision. Number one, I'm going to increase my investment in a network because this is a time when few companies can invest more. So I added $1 billion immediately, and I communicated that in order to get the community confidence that people will continue to invest. The second was I said to all my employees, I'm not going to fire anyone until COVID is over. Of course, it took a little bit longer with COVID, but it was the right decision. And I've learned if you have a crisis, show up in a crisis, that's how people will remember you.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a very important moment.
Extraordinary. They're going to remember the decision I took. I also decided that I'm not going to disconnect any customers if they cannot pay the bill until it's over. You know, if you weren't connected during COVID, you couldn't call, you couldn't work, you couldn't buy groceries. So we decided that. And on top of that, I also decided, in order to communicate, I decided every day at 12 o'clock, I had a video session with all my employees, 12 to 12:30. There were many days I had not much to say. I can tell them, this morning I woke up, I have done that. But I had to give them some confidence that I'm around, I'm going to be here, because I couldn't even go out to them. So for almost a year, I had a half an hour video conference with all my employees. So employees in the store basically took that half hour to listen to me. Yes. Sometimes I had some colleagues coming in, but mainly it was me sitting in my office or at home, speaking what I've done, who I'd talked to, what I hear, reassure them about that we'll take care of them. It was extraordinarily emotional, I have to say. And remember also that our traffic in the network moved overnight.
It was exploding.
Everything was in urban areas, moved to out to suburban. People stayed at home. They never traveled. Yeah. People moved from New York to the southern part of...
And much more traffic because everything was on the network.
And we dimensioned the network where people live and are. And in months, they changed everything for us. So I had to change the capacity. And all companies decided that people need to work from home. So they order broadband to their home for their employees. Oh, my God. So, it was a special time. But it also shows that we show up in a crisis. We understand we are a critical infrastructure for a country to survive. We're the number one telecom provider in the US. We are more customers than anybody else. So for us, it was extraordinarily important to show up, and I knew that I had to do what I did.
Did you keep any of the practices you invented on the spot during COVID for afterwards? Because I remember, we talked about getting rid of bureaucracy. Yeah. This was the only moment that I remember when I got rid of bureaucracy. Yeah. Because, you had to start a new life. And then you saw certainly the direct interaction, caring more for employees was actually something that was very nice to do. Yeah. And so when I look at my agenda today relative to before COVID, it's very different.
So what I did, of course, that not only did I talk to my employees every day, I schedule at least 3-4 CEOs every day. I talk to all of them and just ask them. So that changed my way that I can communicate because I traveled a lot to my large customers and partners. And now I changed that. The other thing was, of course, the communication when employees changed. So it's a lot of things. But the biggest thing I think we changed was, of course, that you learn pretty quickly into the crisis that you have a running business and you have a crisis. Yeah. And in our company, there are natural disasters basically every week here in the US where I need to run to the crisis, I need to set up the network. But I'm also running the network for the rest of the country or the rest of the world. So I learned pretty quickly that as soon as we have a major crisis, take out 2-3 people. The rest, we work with today's business, with today, what is happening. And I think we'll learn that to be really good at that.
Another aspect I think that I heard a little bit from your upbringing was the question around how can you be inclusive? Yeah. How can you be somebody that caters for everybody, includes everybody, not only physically but also digitally? Tell me a little bit about your beliefs around why inclusion is important and why it should remain important, given that the context you are living in at the moment is probably not as favorable.
No, that's true. No, so I've always believed in that. It's two things. First of all, when I did my white paper, I decided that Verizon going to have 4 stakeholders. We're going to have targets, long-term targets for all of them, meaning shareholders, employees, customers, and society. 93% of the US population have less than 30 minutes to install a Verizon store. We are in every community of this country. We need also to shop in the communities and caring about them. So for me, it was important both to care about communities and society and get the balance, because ultimately that is our brand. My own beliefs came very early on, I would say, when I lived in Latin America, and I saw that when people got connected, they were suddenly was part of our society. I always try to work with digital inclusion, rally different industries to understand that it shouldn't matter where you're born or where you come from or where you live. If you want to be part of our society in the 21st century, you need to be connected. You need to be connected to the internet. And I remember when I came out from COVID, and this was when I really felt that if you are not connected, you're actually outside our society.
Yeah.
And that was tough for me. I worked in telecommunication. By then, we had 3 billion people that wasn't connected. So I decided, together with World Economic Forum, to run a project called Edison Alliance. After a while, we decided we're going to bring 1 billion people more to be connected, but only if it's digital education, digital healthcare, or they can use their mobile phones for financials, meaning payment, etc. I succeeded to rally 300 companies and I think 51 countries to take commitments, and in less than 3.5 years, we added 1 billion people with the help of World Economic Forum as a platform and all the people. But it's part of the strategy of Verizon. I mean, we want to be inclusive. We want to see that everybody is connected. It's part of our strategy. And then I use the experience and the relationship I've had created over 25 years in industry. And I got any company you can ever believe was part of it. So I have strong beliefs personally to use my platform to do the right things. But I also see that my company should do the right things. I mean, I always tell my team, you can go down and support the soup kitchen. That's not part of our strategy. Yeah. And we decided very early on that we have volunteerism, but the volunteerism in the company is only when you volunteer to a cause that we have decided is important for society. And I think almost 80% of all our employees are volunteering every year. So enormous commitment, and that's in the field of education, or if it's in digital health or something like that, where we have clear projects they can work on.
On this journey that is not always easy, I mean, there's many successes and you're very proud of, but there's also a lot of setbacks.
Oh,
and in the moment of setbacks, you need...
I'm not sure about you, but yeah.
All the time.
Yeah,
all the
you
time.
have been perfect, right?
All the time. In these moments, you need resilience. I mean, maybe your sports career in handball has helped you to deal with that, but how do you deal with setbacks and how do you keep resilient?
Of course, you have a lot of setbacks as CEO, and you take decisions, and 5 years later you realize it was a stupid decision. But I force myself to believe that every decision I take with as much information I had at that moment. 5 years later, there were new information.
Exactly. Or 10 minutes later, there's new
10
information.
10 minutes. So
exactly.
I try to work with as many inputs as possible when I take difficult decisions, external, internal, and I listen as many. Then, of course, you need to be decisive ultimately. So that's one part of resilience, that you need to feel that I did everything I could. But still, it's going to be wrong. I mean, you can hire people that I'm certain is going to be perfect, and then 1 year later, no, it didn't work. So this, of course, you need to spend time on the difficult decisions. And if you do that, you should feel good about it. And even though you are sometimes not doing right. I think the other things for me is that when it is a crisis, when you have a challenge, that's really when I'm more important than usual. As a leader, that's when you need to shop. Yeah. You need to be the light and giving energy when we had a tough challenge, whatever. Because if I'm shy when we have the bigger challenges, I'm the wrong guy.
And you can't expect from anybody else
exactly.
not to be shy.
And when we do well, I mean, I can encourage people, but you don't need to do so much. But when you have a challenge, that's when, and that comes from sports as well. It comes from my years when I played team handball. When you were leading and everything was going fine, it was fine.
That's okay, yeah.
When we were down, I was trying to be the guy that encouraged everyone. We still can make it until the last second. And I think that's still the same sort of stamina I have today for my team. And that's why I love what I'm doing. I mean, this is sort of what I love.
I can see that.
It's enormous how proud I am that I'm the one that can lead this company, but it comes with a huge amount of responsibility, of course.
Yeah. But where do you get the energy from? Is it your daily running that gives you the energy, or what is it?
So I'm going to tell you a story. So 2009, or something a little bit earlier, when I became the CEO the first time, I tried to figure out what I was really good at. And I came up with, I'm really good to give people energy, and giving them empowerment as a good leader. And then I realized I cannot do that if I'm in bad mood. So I started in 2009 to track every day on a scale from 0 to 10. So if I'm 0, 1, or 2, I'm in really bad mood, as we all have, we have shit days. Even I have that, everyone have. And if I'm 9 to 10, I have so much energy, so people get tired of me. So my sweet spot should be between 3 and 8. And actually I have tracked that every day since 18th of June. So I can see, so this morning I tracked yesterday. How was my mood yesterday? And important for me is to know that if I'm really having problems, I'm in bad mood, I shouldn't meet a lot of people or my employees or partners, because I might only meet them one time. And if that's my superpower to give energy, I need to be good at it. So yeah, I have my mood indicator, and actually show my mood indicator to my top leaders every quarter. And it looks like a heartbeat, it's going up and down, because we all are human, and we need to find your models to be a better leader.
So where are we today on your mood indicator?
I had a great day yesterday, so I was probably a 7 yesterday, I think.
So it's the mood indicator of today is a function of what happened yesterday.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
So we're going to see how this day turns out. Tomorrow morning I'm going to
I'll
put the score on it.
Tomorrow morning,
yeah,
exactly.
Tomorrow morning I score it.
Exactly.
And it's going to be interesting one day when I go back and I do a line over, I'm not sure now how many, 17 years. I can see how my mood has gone up and down every day for 17 years.
And what is it linked to? I mean, a bad mood, is it you slept badly, or you had a bad...
No, it's more that you can have a bad meeting or something is going bad. So I feel, wow, I'm not bringing out the superpower that I have, the best part of my leadership, because I have a lot of weaknesses, as we all have as leaders. You need to find a lot of people helping you with that. I decided I'm going to be even better on what I'm good at instead of trying to fix what I'm bad at. That was my strategy. Which
is very good. I mean, if you look at how do we work on customer satisfaction, we don't work on the customers that are very unhappy. No. We work on the ones that, can still, exactly. And that's the same philosophy. Talking about another topic around communication and a leader, I've noted that you are quite active on social media. Mm-hmm. So that has, a very positive side of it, because people can experience you beyond the physical presence, but it also has a dangerous side, because how do you make sure that you stay private and don't become one of these glitzy celebrities? So how do you manage this trade-off and not fall into the trap of falling on the wrong side?
I think it's very different. I mean, Ericsson was a B2B company, very much behind. I had no major social media. Verizon has 130 million consumers. We are a brand that is 99% consumer or brand recognition in the US. I'm sort part of the brand. When we started with my social media, we decided also what we're going to show on social media. So it's very clear. I mean, I do sports because when I exercise and health, because I want people to understand health and balance. And then the other thing I show on my social media is when I'm together with employees or partners. Yeah. That's the only thing I have there, because that's part of it. But of course, I have to realize that people are upset with some service we have given them. So you get some criticism, whatever you're doing. But it's very important when you have a presence like you get with a CEO title like I have here in the US, that you are very clear on what areas do you want to expose. And I have a great team that helped me to see that I'm only doing that and not involving my family or something like that. So that has been a very clear strategy, and we use it in order a lot for our employees as well, so they can see, because they, to be honest, I can say send out an employee internal letter and I probably have a bigger hit rate on my Instagram. People are like that today. They are, and we need to be visible in all channels. And I just tell you, during COVID, we actually live stream my 30 minutes on Twitter every day.
Okay.
So anybody could actually go in and listen to me, because our store employees, they don't have access to internet, so they actually were looking on Twitter on me when I talked to them, and anyone could actually see what I was talking about. So, which of course were a little bit complex, but so now you need to realize that the world we're living in and the communication channels you have has dramatically changed over time.
Yeah, look, I mean, it has got a lot of advantages, but you need to manage the balance.
But you need to be careful what's happening around you every day, how much you're out on social media. You cannot be tone deaf what things are happening. So it's very important, but you have a great team that helps you, then it works better. And I post myself as well, but they usually are more happy when they can control it.
So no discussion today is a good discussion if we don't talk about AI.
Yeah.
So everybody talks about it, everybody wants to do it, but when you look where we are, the traditional companies like Verizon and AXA, we have not yet really shown that we're capable of doing it. How do you make sure that at Verizon this is not only just a buzz, but becomes a reality?
So in our case, I would say we have large implementation of AI already in several areas. The first thing we did was over the years we have federated all our data, because that's one of the most complicated things in a large organization, because you have data all over the place. In order to be able to use the data, you need to federate it. We had done that for many years, so we had that already. Then we actually decided for which are the areas where we have the biggest impact of AI. Customer care was an obvious one. I'll give you the example. I mean, we probably have way over 100 million calls a year to our call centers. And today we have somewhere between 500-600 data points on every phone number. So we would know why you are calling in.
Yes.
And then I have behind that probably 30,000-40,000 customer care agents. They have different skills. Some are really good on billing, some are good on broadband, other on the mobile, some on different service plans.
So you could channel the call
to
the...
So we match them in milliseconds. So what it means, which is, first of all, the customer becomes happy because he talks to somebody that really knows the problem. But what is not even more important, but almost, is that my employee gets way more happier because you get the call that you can solve for something.
Exactly.
You don't need to say, I cannot help, I need to pass you on. And that's the worst thing you can do, handovers in customer care. So that's one huge business case we implemented 1 year ago. We save minutes on every call. The call rate where people doesn't hang up has come down quite dramatically. So we have that. We have a lot in capital allocation when it comes to when we're going to deploy our capital in capacity, etc. So we have many of these that already have impact, but it doesn't have impact that we're reducing people at the moment, but we're not adding people. So I can take much more workload today because of this.
So let's talk about this, because I believe that AI, yes, it's a tech challenge, but it's first and foremost a organizational challenge.
Yeah.
And the openness of people to use it is very much linked to, are they able to stay in a safe environment, or are you going to fire me?
Yeah.
How do you, let's say, entice people to use it while not always thinking about, am I still there tomorrow or not?
So in customer care, we made it very easy. Every minute we save, you are now going to be sales agent. So I took all those minutes for my customer care people and said, hey guys, I want you to sell instead. And if you're successful to sell, you're salespeople as well. So you need to be, don't scare people with it. It should be a good, for my people in the stores, they have an AI agent that can help them immediately when you come in to what you can sell to the customer, so you don't start selling things that they don't want to have.
Yeah.
It makes life easier. So it should be seen like that. Then, of course, we also have a sales motion on AI. We have more long-haul fiber than anybody else. We have data centers. So for me, it's also a sales opportunity with all this infrastructure being built in the United States and all the connectivity that is needed, all the power, cooling, and space that is needed, because we're sitting on that. So I both have a business opportunity and I have an internal efficiency opportunity.
Very good. Before we come to the end, lots of young people will be listening to us, and they will mostly be interested if you were a young person today, a leader that starts, what are the 1 or 2 pieces of advice you have for that person?
I think I have 2. One is that I took every job I got, even though I stayed at 28 years at Ericsson. They moved me every second year. I lived in China, I lived in Brazil, I lived in Chile, I lived in Mexico, I lived in the US, Argentina, and they moved me. And I was more focused on getting a new experience rather than getting the right title. I'm worried that if you do that, you're sometimes getting too narrow. Depending on what you want to do in life. I wanted to be a big leader. I worked in almost every function of a company. I was in HR, I was communication, I was sales, services. But I also took them without thinking, okay, that's a lateral move. It's not the vertical move upwards every time. I actually went downwards a couple of times in order to learn something new because I trusted my leaders and I had, of course, opportunity to do it. So that's the first advice. The other advice I got 2005 or something, or 6, I was young. I was running a large business unit at Ericsson, and I had one of the best leaders I've ever worked with in my life, Hans Vestberg. And we had our yearly review, and we were performing fantastic. My unit was just killing it. So, of course, I was probably 35 or something, so I knew I was onto something. And we had a conversation. At the end, he asked me, so, Hans, do you want to be the CEO of Ericsson? Wow, here it comes, I feel good. I said, oh, yeah, I feel good. And he said, that will never happen, he told me. And I said, what do you mean? I'm performing everything. Yeah, but you're doing great with your employees. You're doing great with your customers. But all your peers in the leadership team, you're never helping them. You're never working with them and see that they also feel that, because one day if you're going to be their boss, they're going to say, I don't want to work with that guy. And of course it came a little bit from the competitiveness that I wanted to be best, but I missed that. And I think that advice you should think about in your life, that you need to manage upwards, downwards, but also on the sides. And I hope that I changed. In that moment I changed, and I started to help my colleagues more and see that whatever ideas I had for them or whatever I can chip in to see that they were successful, I did. I think I was fairly successful with it. But I think those two advices I would give to anyone that would ask me.
Let me ask you one bonus question for the other segment of people. So a lot of people have a successful career, but then at some point it ends and they fall into a hole.
Yeah.
You are still in the middle of a great journey, but at some point you also need to think, okay, how will you then design the third phase of your life? If Ericsson was the first, Verizon the second, and something else the third. So when you think about, in a long time about your third phase, what are your thoughts about that? How would you advise people to avoid falling into a hole?
I have already designed that phase because I retired already 2016 when I left Ericsson.
Yes.
So I designed what I wanted to do if I don't want to run a big, large company. So I wanted to work with sports, and I wanted to give back to society in digital inclusion. And I think that whenever in the long future when I'm going to retire, I'm going to go back to that because I designed how I wanted to work and how I wanted to give back. And sports has always been on the side with me. I've been the chairman of the Swedish Olympic Committee, the Swedish Handball Federation. So for me to give back to sports with what I know, I cannot play anything, but I can be in the administration of sports. That I really want to do. And then, of course, I have been on the board of the UN Foundation. I've been in several type of organizations where I can give back with what I'm good at. That I want to do the day I'm going to retire, but I'm never going to retire. I want to do something intellectually. I think that for me, idling is probably not very good.
That I can easily see. Thank you very much, Hans. It was a great conversation.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you.